Nick, I thought of you today when I saw the Brandon Tate signing come across. I thought no Bengals fan across the country is happier than Nick Suberling is right now. Dust off that Brandon Tate jersey, baby.
Happy is not the word I would use to describe my emotions when I saw that come across Twitter today. I had a lot of people. In fact, Cody Toomey, who's going to be joining us for our live show at Lachey's, was talking to me today, tweeted to me about the fact that just because he was signed doesn't mean he's going to make this roster. Hello, what team have you been watching the last 13 years? Of course Brandon Tate is going to make this roster. If you don't think he's going to make the roster, you're nuts, because you're not watching the same team that I am. Here we are, we're a minute in, and I'm already yelling. To be fair, Cody, who's in the chat room right now, said he was being sarcastic. And I'm just using you as an example, Cody, because there were a lot of people, both on the Cincy Jungle website and some of the comments, as well as on Twitter, defending the move, saying that it was solid and that this is a backup plan in case they can't get that guy in the draft, which I don't buy it. I absolutely do not buy it. I think that he is the fact that they signed him means he's a lock to be back. That's just my opinion, Scott. And so I'm just, my blood is boiling.
Nick, I'm going to be the voice of reason again, like I had to be with Cody when the Bengals signed A.J. Hawk. Kind of the slow down, take a step back. I don't like Brandon Tate either. I'm not a Tate fan, but I don't think he's going to make this roster. I don't think this changes their plan. I think they're still looking for a receiver in the draft that has kick return ability. I think this was simply a insurance plan. Now, it can be debated whether he's a good insurance plan. I would venture to guess that they could find anyone in the NFL that could do what Brandon Tate does. So from that standpoint, I understand what you're saying. If they want an insurance plan, they could probably find a better one. But I don't think the signing of Brandon Tate means he makes the roster. In fact, I still don't think he does make the roster. I think they draft one, maybe two young receivers, one of which is going to be a kick return type person, and I don't think Tate makes this roster.
They've drafted these receivers in the past. Cody Hamilton,
Nick,
guys with speed.
Nick, things are changing.
It depends on where if they do draft a wide receiver and if they draft one in the second or third round, then I think the writing's kind of on the wall there, especially if it's a guy like a Philip Dorsett or one of these speedy guys that could potentially return kicks. I think that's kind of where Tate's job could be in jeopardy there a little bit. And who knows? I mean, maybe I've mentioned this a couple times on the podcast, but maybe the Bengals start to embrace a little bit of what the Seattle Seahawks have done a little bit and compete, and they bring some of these guys back, and maybe that's kind of the mantra they use throughout training camp. I don't know. I don't think he's 100% safe, meaning Brandon Tate, but they seem to like him, and I can't really put my finger on why.
I have no idea why they continue to use him and keep him around. I mean, this is all you need to know about Brandon Tate, guys. In that playoff game, who was our featured wide receiver when everybody was injured? Freaking Rex Burkhead. They couldn't even put Brandon Tate out there to contribute as a fifth-string receiver, probably a sixth-string receiver. So you mean to tell me that there's not somebody out there right now that you could have found in free agency that offers more and that can compete better than Brandon Tate can? I just cannot get my head around. And the more I try to get my head around the Bengals and this move, the more I just continue to get angry and feel like this team is going to be a first-round exit type team for years and years and years to come. And I wish that was not the case. I wish that they were pushing the boundaries and getting creative, and I'm just at a loss. Help me, Scott. Help me.
Nick, I don't think kick returner is a spot where you go into free agency to find, other than of course re-signing your own. I just don't see the value in it. I think that's a spot where you go in the draft. In this draft especially, there's a lot of guys in this draft, a lot of speedy receivers. Cody can probably hit on this more, but a lot of speedy receivers that have kick return experience. I talked about him before, a guy like Tyler Lockett from Kansas State. It's a speedy guy, a guy that, a lot of people have kind of linked to the Bengals, maybe third, fourth round area. Another guy's like Jamison Crowder from Duke, who's another guy. Philip Dorsett as well. I don't think the Bengals are going to be able to get their hands on him. I think he'll be gone too soon. But there's another guy. There's a lot of receivers in this draft that have speed and have kickoff return experience, and I think that's where they'll go. I think they will draft at least one, possibly two receivers in this draft, and I think one of those is going to be with the intent to take over the kick return role.
I don't know what team you've been watching, Scott, but I don't see it. I see Brandon Tate being the guy who takes the opening kickoff in September in Week 1. That's just they wouldn't have. If he was an insurance policy, I think they could have waited to sign Brandon Tate, because there weren't a whole lot of teams barking up that tree. The Kansas City Chiefs, and clearly they weren't all that impressed and decided to pass on him, and he ended up back in Cincinnati. You mean to tell me if you needed an insurance policy, I could understand maybe making this signing after the draft, or maybe possibly in training camp, because he wasn't going anywhere, guys. So that's why I think he is your opening day kick returner, and he will be around. That's just that's my personal take. I hope I'm wrong though, but we've been saying it for 4 years now. There's no way Brandon Tate makes this roster. There's no way Brandon Tate makes this roster. Well, guess what? He does it every single year.
I'm going on record, Nick. He's not making the roster this year.
Oh, you heard it here first. Scott says no.
Book it.
Yeah, I actually agree with him. I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe there for.
But we've been saying that for years, guys.
I know that. And this, if there's one thing that the Bengals always show, especially to these certain players, Domata Pico, Brandon Tate, it's the loyalty factor. And I don't know exactly what it. I can get behind a Domata Pico much more than a Brandon Tate type of loyalty. And for whatever reason, this team just has that bred in its system, and a lot of times it's to very good players, and sometimes it's to players that are very questionable, and their contributions are very questionable. Brandon Tate is one. I do feel bad for him a little bit, because I'm sure he catches the vibe that a lot of Bengals fans don't really like him on this team, so I feel bad for him as a person, but from a team standpoint, he does not improve this football team, and that signing does not improve this football team from my perspective